This is intended to be just a real basic crash course for adding and subtracting fractions. It's just more of background information so that when we start talking about positive and negatives here, it won't confuse you. So let's take a look at this. We're talking about NS1. Right. This is the overall basic standard here to apply and extend previous understandings of addition and subtraction to add and subtract rational numbers. You don't need to write this down. Just make sure that you have 7NS1 up in the title of your notes. Yeah, we've been doing this already. We're just sort of revisiting this, and we're going to talk about fractions. Okay, first, when we talk about adding and subtracting, we need things to be of the same value, all right? Which really means that the label needs to be the same. So when we're talking about this, you can add a dime and a penny together pretty easily, right? A dime and a penny. I can put these together, but if I ask you how much this is worth, you're probably going to tell me that it's worth 11 cents, right? And in the process of this, what you're really doing is you're converting them so that they're the same value, right? You're taking this dime and you're saying it's worth 10 cents, and you're saying this one is worth 1 cent, and that together it makes 11, right? So you've changed all of the values to the smaller piece. And typically that's what we're going to do. We're usually going to take things and we're going to make them into everything into the smaller piece so that we can add them together. Okay, it makes it harder when you're using the larger piece to add things together. So usually what we do is make it into the smaller and then add them. So for instance, just if you have a quarter and a dime and I want to add these together, I'm going to add these together and I'm going to end up getting 35 cents. And why does that work? Well, if I take these, okay, let's see if I can get this pen to work. Is it going to work here? There we go. Maybe. Oh, sort of wants to work. Okay, this is going to equal 25 cents, right? And this is, that's not working. I'm going to have to use the mouse. This is worth 10 cents, okay? Notice I changed both of these into pennies, okay? And that's what I'm doing. The label needs to be the same, right? This is worth 10 pennies. Okay, and this is worth 25 pennies, so together it makes altogether 35 pennies, okay? So when we look at something like this, again, the idea of working with fractions is we have part of a whole, okay? And so I have part of a whole here. I've got 2/5, and then I've got another part of a whole of 1/5. And again, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about this as, what is the whole? What am I starting with, right? And then what I'm going to also do is I'm going to look at, okay, well then how many of these pieces do I have? Well, the nice thing about this is if you notice the denominator here and the denominator here are the same, which is really just saying I have the same size piece, right? So if I do this, I'm going to have 2/5 plus 1/5, right? I mean, you could substitute anything you wanted for fifth instead of this, right? And so if I have 2 dogs and 1 dog, that gives me together, right? That's going to give me 3 dogs, okay? All right, and that's what this is. This is really kind of just like a label. It's the size of the piece. So 2/5 plus 1/5 is going to give me 3/5 because I'm adding things of the same value. I have 2 pieces that are this size plus another one which is that same size, which gives me together 3 pieces that are this size, okay? Well, let's take a look at what this might look like if you're going to actually graph it or like draw a picture of it. So here's a fraction, here's another fraction. Okay, I'm going to throw the grid on top, and what I'm saying is if I have 2/5, right, and 3/5, or 2/5 and 1/5, this would be 2/5, right? And then here's 1/5. And so when I put these together, I have 1, 2, 3. These are all the same size, 3/5. So let's take a look at the same idea. Now, what happens when we have subtraction? Well, again, what we're going to do here is we're going to look at this and we're going to say, I've got 2/5 subtracted by, or taking away 1/5, right? 2 minus 1. 2 dogs, take away 1 dog, I'm going to have 1 dog, right? So we know that this is going to end up equaling 1/5. So let's take a look at what this looks like, okay? So I have my pieces here. I'm going to throw the grid, okay? So now I have 5 pieces, right? So I'm going to start off with, all right, I got 1 piece and then another piece, okay? I got 2 pieces, and then what I'm doing is I'm grabbing one of these pieces and I'm grabbing one of these pieces and I'm getting rid of it, right? Which leaves me with one of these pieces. And how big is that piece? Well, it's 1/5. Okay, and that's what I'm end up with here. All right, so then let's go ahead. Let's move on. Now, what happens when I have something like this, right? So here's a part of a whole. I have 2/3 of a whole. So I have a whole. I cut it into 3 pieces. I get 2 of them. This is saying I have a whole. I cut it into 6 pieces. I get to keep 1 of them. So, but the problem here is if I try to put these together, I can't do this because this would be like saying I have two dogs and 1 cat. It doesn't make 3 dogs. It doesn't make 3 cats. It just has 2 dogs and 1 cat, right? Because the pieces aren't the same size. So let's go ahead and let's look at this, okay? So I'm going to do 2/3 and 1/6. All right, so let's take a look. And let's see, I'm going to do 2/2 here, right? So this would be, nope, that's too much. All right, so let's try that again. So I'm going to get 2/3. Well, actually, that would be 1/3, right? Because if I really did this, what I need to do is I need to cut this into 3 pieces, okay? And we're talking about 2 of those pieces, okay? And this is then 1 of these pieces, which are 1/6, okay? Well, I can't add these, they're not the same. But what I could do is I could cut this into smaller pieces, right? I'm going to cut each of them into 2 pieces. So what I'm going to end up at here is I have 2/3, right? Well, 2/3 then becomes 4/6, right? So what I did is I multiplied each side, the top and the bottom, by 2, right? And really what I did is I just cut it in half, okay? I had my original pieces here, right? This was my original piece here, and another original piece. And what I did is I just cut everything in half, okay? So then when I do this together, now I have 4/6, and I add 1/6, okay? And together, that's going to give me 5/6. Okay, so that's what this is going to be equal to, 5/6, right? So if I took the whole and I cut it into 6 pieces, right? This is what this is going to turn into. So then let's do the same thing here. Let's take a look at this one. I have 2/3 minus 1/6. So again, I have this thing, right? This piece here. I'm going to cut it into, let's do this. Let's cut it into 3 pieces, right? So let's cut it into 1. That looks about right. Okay. And what I'm saying here is I'm going to get 2 of them. Okay. And then what I need to do is I need to remove 1/6, right? But that's not going to work out so well. So let's put the grid in here. And so what I'm going to do again is I'm going to cut each of these pieces in half. Okay. So let's do that in red. And so I'm going to cut each of them in half. This one in half, this one in half, this one in half. And so my 2/3 then becomes 4/6. And I'm removing 1 of those 6ths, which then leaves me with 3 of the 6ths. Okay, all right. I'm going to get rid of this one. This one goes away. Okay, and what am I left with? I'm left with this much here, right, which is 3/6. And if you reduce 3/6, that is going to equal to 1/2. Okay, because then I could put, say, well, this amount here. Okay, in fact, let's just go ahead and erase this, right? I'm left with 3/6 here, right? 3/6. Well, this ends up being half, right? If I had cut this thing into 2 pieces, right? This is half, and that's the other half. Okay, so this would be my final answer. All right, hopefully that helped. We'll do a lot more practice in class.